Hello and welcome to editing. Now, I will practically go through a few of the steps which we took to edit our version of the Heathens music video. So our music video, so to speak. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, in the first part here, we tried to create a sort of Gemini effect where the protagonist is standing opposing his evil twin. That's why Gemini. So practically seen, what we did was that we used a green screen in the hope to make the background behind these two black. However, when we tried out the pipette and switched the HSL to 3D, it did not work out that well because the green screen color was too different from the both and the light was too different. So practically seen, it was impossible to get a very nice clean green screen. Now we tried it with monochroming it, and we mostly did the entire video in monochrome colors, so black and white. But however, there was the problem that now it was completely obvious that the protagonist was standing behind a green screen because his hair flimmered. Now going back to the slide, here we can see the blue little box here. So practically seen, this here is an alpha output. Now alpha output is very vital when you do a green screen, because what happens is that everything green becomes black, like this. So practically everything black is not there, or practically seen whatever you put instead of the black. So for example, if you put like a night sky, then the protagonist is gonna stand in the night sky. Okay, next up. Now the editing of Salvation, one of the three single, or in this case solo dancers. Now what we did first was that we monochromed it again, put up the curves a bit, and used glow. Now for Salvation we wanted, like glowy, it's like light, it's like sort of godlike but not godlike at the same time. It's like eerie, psychological. So practically seen, this is why we use glow here with the Cyber FX effects. And as you can see, it's a really nice effect. However, the problem was it was so bright that we actually had to minimize the curves just a tiny fraction so that it actually would fit in with Judgment and Death. Now, here we have the entire video practically laid out. As you can see here, this one here is Salvation, this one here is Judgment, and this one here is Death. So practically seen, what we did for each three of them was that Judgment was filmed against the light. Now this was really one of the hardest scenes to edit because we had so much light noise in the background. So what we did was that we once again went to the FX effects and used an application called Mirrors, which practically split the girl in half. And then we also played around with some curves, just shadows, highlights, just trying to erase the noise as best as we could. Now here with this one, we have the protagonist falling into eternal darkness, or in this case an eternal night sky. So practically seen, how we did this is that we first took a picture of a night sky, made it monochrome, then went to zoom, this button here. Then pressed on this little triangular thing here, then it turned red, and then practically started here and ended there, changing the zoom in the end. And now practically what this has, it's like zolling, practically zooming out or zooming in. So it's a pretty amazing effect. Now next up. So practically seen, how we did this was that this time it was a perfect green screen condition, which means the lighting was perfect, everything could be masked quite perfectly. So again, we used the pipette tool here, went onto the HSF and changed it to 3D, and then just practically masked around it. Then we changed the curves a bit, and the highlights and the shadows so that the protagonist looks a bit darker because he was too light in this original scene which we edited him in. You know, the monochrome colors did not really agree with him that much, so we had to simply make him a bit darker. Now here we have a nice shot here. So practically you see here we have the footage again nicely reassembled. Here we have the eye-opening transition, which we practically made in the same way that we made the night sky zoom, practically zoom in so that it appears infinite, where we practically took the crop tool in the inspector and then practically just cropped it down in the middle like this, and then we just made it practically open up by using the diamond shaped thing again. Now here we have a selection of all the footage available, and here we have the video. So practically what we did was that we knew which footage we had and practically just dragged it into there, cutting it to beat. So practically this one here is cutting to beat. Now here we have an example of a bad green screen. So again we have the pipette tool and we have the 3D selector. Now this time the 3D selector did not help because, as you can see here, the like a white line, and this should not be there because it will definitely show in frame. So practically seeing this one here is a good example of good green screen editing. So we had one more which was really good. So again we went on the pipette tool, 3D, traced around it, and we practically got his face alone. Now the gray part is usually what happens when you're dealing with a green screen, because a green screen is practically a color which turns invisible in DaVinci Resolve. Now this blue thing here at the bottom, as said before, is an alpha output. So practically seen, you just join the two blue together and voila, whatever is underneath the footage becomes the background of the footage which you have put the green screen on. And that would be it. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it.